Hello, Craig.
Yes, that is Craig. But yeah. Uh, let's go ahead and start. So introduce your character, what they look like, where they're at, and what they're doing.
Um, so my character's name is Caspien. She is an elf druid. She is currently walking on the beach, stuffing pebbles in her pockets.
Okay, yeah. So Caspian is just very, very simply walking along the beach
Yes.
like a 5-year-old looking for different knickknacks
hmm
to put in her pockets.
Yes, to make a
And
trinket.
the shore is to her left. The rest of the land is to her right. There's no one else on the beach. It is about 2 p.m. And then, very weirdly, because there's no train tracks around, Caspian goes ahead and she hears a train to her left. She hears the engine, the brakes, and eventually a door.
Oh. I open the door.
Yeah, so you open the door to the train. It's a little hard because you go over and you realize that the train is just almost barely floating on the water, but enough so that you're still standing on land. You open the door and a cowboy steps out and says, "This is a weird place to meet up."
Hi. Quick question, sir. Why is your train on the water?
Magic? Are you Caspian?
Yes, that is me.
Oh, that's good. I'm here to pick you up. We gotta go somewhere.
Um, would you like a piece of driftwood?
Sure, why not? I've seen weirder things today. And he takes the piece of driftwood you give him.
She reluctantly, after a little bit of hesitation, walks into the carriage with the cowboy.
Okay, yeah.
Also, what is your name, sir?
My name? My name is Hunter.
Hello, Hunter. My name is Caspian. Oh shit, you knew that already.
It's fine. Just go ahead and take a seat. And you walk in and you see that it is a pretty fancy train. Nice interior wooden seats, nice cushiony red velvet.
She sits down on the red velvet seat, making sure she takes up the least amount of space as possible.
Yeah. Hunter just goes ahead and looks at Casimir and is like, "You do know." Okay, whatever. He goes ahead and he closes the door. He says, "You know anything about the fog wall or what's beyond it?"
Fog wall? No, never heard of it.
Hmm. Okay. Makes sense since you're this far out from it. But there's this wall made of fog going as high as the sky. Not a lot of people can get through it, but for some reason, whatever reason, you've been chosen to be brought through it from the people upstairs. You know what I mean?
Of all people, me?
Yes. I don't know why either. I'm just supposed to bring you there.
Well, isn't that lovely?
Yeah,
All right, I'll go.
very well. And you eventually feel the train get up to speed. And once it gets back onto land, you realize that kind of weirdly, the ponds and the trees of the forest move out of the train's way as if they're making room for it to pass through them. But after a while, Hunter grabs your attention and he gives you a pouch and a piece of paper. He says, "In the pouch is 500 gold, a key, and a crystal. The piece of paper has instructions for you to do. Luckily for you, you're the last one. Oh, the other three, they've already made their journeys today. One of them was a man, kind of like myself. Another one was a gnome, that annoying bitch. Then the other one was a tiefling, like demon person, kinda. So you'll have
Mm,
friends on the other side.
I've never met a tiefling before. What are they like? Are they scary? I don't like scary things.
Some of them are, but they're kind of just like regular people. I mean, they have demon heritage, so they have red skin and like pointy horns, but for the most part, they're fine.
She opens the pouch and takes the crystal and stuffs it in her pocket with the rest of her trinkets.
Okay, yeah, that works. Um, Eventually, you do get to the fog wall, and nothing really happens. The train stops for a second, and you can see the fog wall pretty clearly out the left window. And it looks like just what he said. It's a wall of fog. You can't really see through it, and it does indeed go up to the sky. But as you're taking note of how weirdly placed and out of the ordinary this um, piece of the landscape is, the train takes almost an unnatural, almost perfect 90-degree turn, and it prepares itself. And Hunter looks at you and says, I would hold on if I was you.
Okay. She she squints her eyes shut and holds onto the sofa. Is this good enough?
Yeah, that's good enough. And then you feel as the train gets up to speed. At first, 5 miles per. First, you go 5 miles per hour. Then you go 50 miles per hour.
She's
500.
she's screaming the whole time.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Hunter just looks at Hunter just looks at Caspian and kind of smiles to himself. Um, but eventually you feel the train go 500 miles an hour, and then you feel the car of the train that you're in settle and shake, and you hear a massive boom as you recognize that the train car just broke the sound barrier. And after about 10 seconds, you stop feeling the shaking and you slow down. Hunter says, you can open your eyes now.
She still keeps her eyes shut. I don't trust this. I want to go home.
Uh, well, you have a home on here. You just gotta find it first. But, seriously though, I need to show you something.
Um, just give me a moment. Um, she like rolls off of the couch and gets up and brushes herself off. Like slowly walks over to Hunter. I think I'm ready now.
Okay. And he goes ahead, he wraps his arm around Caspian and places his hand on her opposite shoulder and points out the window and says, you see that? And he's pointing to what looks like a wolf with a tan brownish fur color, eyes on the side of its head, and two buck teeth. And he looks at Caspian and says, what do you think that is on the other side of the fog wall?
Um, it looks like a wolf, but not like a wolf I've ever seen. What's it called? Is that a wolf? Hold on, let me write this down. And she like grabs a little notebook and a pen.
You know what? That's fine. Someone has to write this down. But no. On the other side of this fog wall, on this side of the fog wall, the magic is a bit more abundant, you might say. And that causes the wildlife to take on more, how you say, predatory characteristics. What you see is very simply just a squirrel.
She's like writing this down. Abundant magic, green appearances, predatory squirrel? Question mark? She like looks up at him, and then looks at the creature, then looks back at him and says, "You're telling me that's a squirrel?"
Yeah, that's a squirrel, right?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
She closes her notebook and takes a deep breath. And then she turns to him and says, "I'm typically good with animals, but I don't know about this place."
Don't worry. They still act like squirrels, just not when you get too close to them. On this side of the fog wall, there's a job called hunters, where people go out into the wildlife. And they get, how you say, permission to hunt certain creatures due to the dangerousness of those creatures. Now, typically, the squirrels, they don't really pose much of a threat. They kind of leave us alone. But other beasts, other ones, they don't really do that. Lucky for you, since you seem to be more on the shy side, you'll be joining 3 other hunters.
But I don't want to kill them.
Oh no, you won't be killing them. At least, not directly.
You didn't tell me I was going to kill things.
You'll get used to it. It's a way of life here.
She opens up the notebook again and starts sketching a little portrait of the weird squirrel wolf looking thing. So what do you call these quote unquote squirrels?
Well, they look like squirrels, at least their fur does, and they have the same buck teeth and the same eye placement. So we just call them squirrels, but we just make the distinction that they're squirrels from this side of the fog wall. That they're a little bit different.
I will call them squolves.
Well, okay then. I feel like you're gonna be a fun character.
She writes down in quotation marks underneath the portrait SQUWOLVES. Squolves.
Well, okay then. I guess that works.
And she proudly shows the picture to Hunter.
Hunter just looks at it and once again smiles to himself. And he says, okay. He looks down at his wristwatch and says, you go ahead, take a seat. It's gonna be a couple hours before we get to Aspen.
You're telling me there's more?
Yeah. Well, once people got through the fog wall, they came into the problem of getting back. And some people, they didn't really want to get back. So they made camps and towns. Eventually, those turned into cities. I'm ordered to take you to the capital city, Aspen.
Oh god, here we go again. She goes over to the velvet sofa, returns to the same position she was before, gripping onto it and squinting her eyes shut. Just tell me when you're ready.
No, it's more of a steady ride to Aspen. You don't got to worry about anything like that happening again.
Oh, okay, thank God. And she sits up in her same position that she was when she first enters the train.
Yeah. From here, it's, how you say, smooth sailing. On that piece of paper, you got some orders that you gotta do. But other than that, I don't really care what you do once I drop you off.
Okay. She opens up the book she was writing in and drawing in before, and she stares out the window at the different plants and animals that are passing by her. She's like jotting down at different things, and then she looks out, and then she looks back and keeps jotting down. And that goes on until they make the next stop.
Okay. Yeah. So she does this basically taking study of the new area and realm that she's in. And she does this for a couple hours. It's a pretty smooth, kind of longish train ride until eventually in the distance, there is a city, a magical giant city. And the train finally takes stop at the train station. And Hunter comes up from the front of the train where he was conducting it. Says, "Well, here's your stop."
Thank you, mysterious hunter man, sir. She like gives him a wave goodbye before hopping off the train and looking around.
He waves back and says, "Hopefully I see you again someday." But yeah, Caspian gets off the train, looks around, and she sees a magical city. There are skyscrapers, um, just reaching higher than the clouds can allow her to see. There are dragons and gnomes and elves and humans and demon people just walking around like it's nothing. There are carriages being drawn by no horse, and they're flying somehow, but they don't fall, and they go along, and no one blinks an eye. And you are in the city of Aspen.
She is completely appalled by the sights in front of her. She has basically only ever seen elves in her lifetime since she grew up in a small village by the coast. So she takes out her sketchbook again and starts drawing all these weird people. And she goes below each portrait and writes winged creature? Question mark? Horned human? Question mark? Little guy? Question mark? And she's looking around and taking in all these smells, and she has so many questions, but there are so many strangers, and she is absolutely petrified of asking any questions whatsoever. So she just aimlessly takes a stroll around the city, hoping she could find at least something familiar that would bring her at least a tiny bit of comfort. She is very curious, but also extremely scared of this new place.
Yeah, she mindlessly and just with no direction wanders around the many intertangled streets of Aspen. And eventually, she sees a out of place building. Not necessarily a weird one, because everything is weird here. But she sees a massive wooden building with columns holding up the roof, and a warm glow coming from inside.
She sees the warm glow and eventually, well, not eventually, it immediately reminds her of home and the warm glow that would come out of her windows and her mom cooking up some warm soup inside. So she decides to ring the doorbell. No answer. She rings it again. No answer. So then she knocks on the door about like 10 times.
Yeah. Um, Eventually, someone comes and lets her into the building. And inside, it kind of looks like a bank. There are lines going up to tellers. There are people in all kinds of adventuring gear, um, interchanging and exchanging what look like animals for money. And the person who let her in says, "Welcome to the guild. Are you a member or would you like to become one?"
Um, hello, ma'am. I don't know where I am.
Ah, well, who brought you here?
Some weird hunter dude in a cowboy hat.
Oh, Hunter. Yeah, he's been bringing some people recently. He should have gave you a piece of paper that has stuff on it.
Oh, yes. 1 minute. She like digs in her pocket of trinkets, and she like takes out a couple rocks, and she hands it to the woman, saying, "Hold that for a second, please." And then she digs in her
Okay.
pocket. She digs in her pocket some more, and eventually pulls out the piece of paper. She takes the rocks back and stuffs them back in her pocket, and shows her the paper.
Oh, yep. And the paper reads as follows. Step 1. Go to the guild and become a member. And it lists an address, and is the address you are currently at. Step 2. Go check out your new apartment. And next to it, it also lists an address. And then number 3, go sightseeing.
Huh. So I just happened to stumble upon this place without even looking at the paper? Lucky
Yeah,
me,
kind
I
of weird. So
guess. She
lucky.
looks up at the woman and says, "So about this apartment."
Well, I don't know anything about that, but I can definitely help you with becoming a member.
Okay, let's start with that then.
Okay. And she leads you into the back of the building through the back halls and twisting and turning at what seems like to you random directions until eventually she stops at an open doorway and gestures for you to go inside.
She bows her head a little bit before entering the room. She tried her best to stay up to catch up with the woman, even though she kept getting distracted by all the paintings and the mosaic tiles on the wall. But she eventually got to where she needed to go.
Yeah. So you go inside and you see a human woman in what is basically just a suit, but she has four wings on her back. She has two in the back of her neck, and she has two larger ones protruding from the curve at the bottom of her back. And she has long hair up in a high ponytail, and it easily goes down to the bottom of her back. And she says, "Hi, I'm Aurora. Who are you?"
Um, wow. Nice wings. Um, um, I'm Caspian. I'm an elf. Um, you didn't need to know that.
"Thank you. I like your ears. Go ahead and take a seat, and we'll begin with your beginning phases."
She stares down at the ground as she shuffles over and pulls out the chair and quickly sits down. Her rocks and other trinkets kind of clinkle in her and clang in her pockets.
Okay. Yeah. So, Aurora, like Hunter, has a kind of curious but happy look on her face when looking at you. She says, as you know, we allow the hunters to be hunters, but their job has a bit of a dangerous side. So we gotta make sure you can take care of yourself when you're out in the wilderness. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask you a couple questions, and if you answer correctly, or if you have the right qualifications, then you become a hunter.
Um, okay.
So, question number one: do you have any way of defending yourself?
Um, She like looks around in her pockets. Not on me at the moment. The best I have is a cool looking rock.
Okay, yeah. Just as long as you either join a party or you eventually do get a weapon. That's more than fine. Question number 2. In the city of Aspen, do you have somewhere to stay?
No, I was kind of scooped up from my village and just brought here.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Most hunters stay out in the wilderness anyway. And then, number 3. Can you cook?
I can make a pretty mean bowl of cereal.
As long as you find something to eat, that's more than fine. You might
I
notice the running pattern that it's kind of easy to become a hunter. Anyway, you should have a crystal on you. And then
oh
she goes ahead and holds out her palm.
oh yeah. 1 second. She like digs through all of her rocks in her pocket again and pulls out the crystal and places it in the lady's hand.
So Aurora takes the crystal in the palm of her hand and she squeezes it until a light blue shine comes through the fingers of her hand, and she eventually releases her grip, and the crystal looks exactly the way it did when she gave it to you, and she gestures for you to take it back. And she says, what I just did is I gave you the verification that you are a hunter. All you gotta do is show your crystal and it'll automatically show up your badge and stuff. Right now, you are at the bronze level. There is bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Just work your way up and then you'll be all good. And then I also gave you my number in there in case you ever need to like call me or have any questions and stuff like that.
She takes her 2 fingers, her pointer finger and her thumb, and like gently plucks it out of Aurora's palm as if trying not to hurt it. And she gently places it back in her pocket along with the rest of her rocks with a little clink. And then
Yes.
she looks up at Aurora and says, I'm supposed to call you with that thing?
Yeah, it's a little bit weird the first time you get to use it, but it's more like a telepathic thing. Like all you gotta do is think about it, and then the crystal will respond.
Man, you guys have some weird rocks in this place.
Yeah, I guess we do. Huh? I never realized that. Anyway, you're now a hunter.
She like digs in her pockets again and pulls out a smooth pebble, and she hands it to Aurora and says, "Those are the rocks we have at my place."
Aurora just looks down at the pebble, like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Anyway, you should probably go ahead and get your way home. It's getting pretty dark out, or at least find a place to stay for the night.
Uh, where?
I heard from the attendant that Hunter dropped you off.
Yes.
Uh, he gave you like a piece of paper with orders on it or something.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Again, 1 second. She like digs in her pockets again with like a determined expression. She eventually finds the paper, which is all like covered in sand. She brushes it off and she looks at it. Says something here about an apartment.
Yeah, so you look down at the paper, and it is just a normal piece of paper with black ink on it. But you see that the first step to become a hunter is now written in what looks like gold. And you look down at the second step, and it says, make yourself at home, and it gives you an address. And Aurora says, oh, yeah, yeah. And then Aurora gives you directions on how to get to that apartment building.
So not only do y'all have weird rocks, but y'all also have weird paper?
Yeah, I guess that. Well, actually, most of our paper is pretty normal. Actually, I guess that paper is just a bit weird.
Huh. Okay, well, it was nice talking to you, ma'am. Feel free to keep that rock. There's plenty more where that came from. And thank you for your help. Bye-bye. She
Okay.
gives her an awkward little wave before running out the door and running in the opposite direction of where the exit is. And then she could see from her office her turning around and running in the other direction. Just a little blur.
Yeah, the entire time, Aurora is just waving goodbye, and on Caspian's way back, she sees that Aurora has taken the pebble and moved it to the corner of her desk. And
Caspian runs out the hallway and out the door and looks both ways and tries to remember the address.
yeah, you leave the building, you eventually start making your way up to the northern end of the city. It does take you a little bit, and you have to check the paper a couple times, but you do eventually find the apartment building it was talking about. And this, once again, is a skyscraper, reaches high up into the sky with countless floors on it. And there are basically just windowed walls running up and down the outside of the building. There is a automatic door, just allowing anyone to go in.
So she approaches the door as she sees the sensor and it opens for her. And thinking somebody opened it for her, she bows her head as she walks in, since she is not used to technology like this. So she walks inside the building and she is just completely gobsmacked at this place. She has never seen anything so fancy. She's used to living in clay and wood cabins back at her village. And this place has glass walls.
Yeah, so Caspian walks in. There's carpeted floor. There's an elevator directly across from her. Over to the right is like a sitting area for guests and residents to just mingle about, and to the left is a coffee shop called Moonbucks with a tiefling with red skin and white hair acting as the main barista.
Caspian takes a look around and she thinks it's probably the best idea to go to the check-in counter first. So she goes up to the counter and she greets the person behind it and she awkwardly says, "Hello there, sir. 1 second." She digs in her pocket and she takes out the crystal thing again. She says, "I think I'm supposed to give you this. Oh yeah, I'm Caspian, by the way. And yeah, here's this weird crystal thing that I think I'm supposed to give to you."
Yeah, the person behind the counter looks at you and says, "Well, I can tell by your crystal that you do live here. Uh,
Yeah, I think so. I just don't have a key."
you'll be fine. The doors are soul linked. Just walk up and it'll automatically unlock. According to the crystal here, it looks like you'll be on the 10th floor. Just go ahead and take the elevator and ride your way up."
Oh, yeah, of course. Just one quick question. What's an elevator?
The man looks puzzled for a second and says, "It's the thing that lifts you up into the sky."
Is it magic?
This one is, yeah.
Huh. I have never heard of this elevator before. It sounds intriguing though. I'll try it out. Thank you again. Oh, one more thing. She digs in her pocket. She pulls out a piece of driftwood. And she says, "Greetings from the coastal village of Narnia."
He looks very confused, but it is against his training to deny any gift. So he just goes ahead and takes it and says, "Oh, okay."
Thank you again, sir. Bye-bye. And she awkwardly waves goodbye before going up to this thing called an elevator.
Yeah.
So
She goes ahead, walks up, and once again the doors automatically open.
again, thinking that there's somebody opening it for her, she bows her head as she enters the elevator, and she goes in and she looks at these buttons. And these buttons, there are so many numbers. And then she remembers what the man said. The number 10, 10th floor. Maybe that was the button she was supposed to press? So she presses the number 10 button cautiously. Takes her about 5 seconds to muster up the courage to press this button.
Yeah.
And
As soon as she presses the button with a little bit of a hesitation, she feels as at a pretty decent speed, the elevator just starts shooting up to the 10th floor.
she starts screaming as she holds on to the railings, sinking down to the floor, and almost having a panic attack.
Yeah, as she is cowering for her life, you hear the ding of the elevator and the doors open to the 10th floor.
As the doors open, there are a few gnomes on the other side, waiting to get inside the elevator. She opens her eyes slowly. She sees the people. She quickly stands up and brushes herself off, bowing to them furiously as to say, sorry about that. And she, says a little, excuse me, before quickly shuffling her way out into her room.
Yeah, so she very awkwardly very awkwardly goes around these gnomes, and the gnomes just look at her like, what the fuck was that? But they eventually go into the elevator, and Caspian um darts back and forth in the hallways, trying to desperately to find which apartment is theirs. But eventually they do match the number to the paper and address. And just like the clerk said in the lobby, the clicking of the lock being unlocked can be heard from the door.
She tilts her head a little bit, as she's never seen a mechanism like this. So she leans to the doorknob. She inspects it a little bit. And then she hears a loud ding, signifying that it's unlocked. And she nearly has a heart attack. She, like, jumps back a little bit and covers her face. And then the door opens. She slowly uncovers her eyes. She's like, oh, the door is open. So, again, thinking that somebody opened it for her, she bows her head as she enters the room and starts looking around.
Yeah, she enters the apartment and looks around, and it looks like a pretty decent apartment. There's wood flooring. Um, it's devoid of any furniture whatsoever. But there is a kitchen filled with a fridge, a stove, and an oven. And to the left is a wall, but leaning against that wall, under the set of stairs, is a backpack with a note attached to it. Ignoring the backpack for now, she steps further into the apartment and seeing that the stairs lead up to a second floor, on which there are 4 separate rooms. Light coming from all but one of them.
She curiously walks up to these rooms and puts her pointed ears to the door, trying to hear if anybody is inside.
She hears a mixture of either snoring or rustling around, or just someone with running water.
She seems a bit puzzled by these noises and knocks on the door gently. Hello?
There is no answer.
She knocks again. Hello?
There is, once again, no answer.
She decides to jiggle the doorknob and eventually it opens.
In the room, there is also almost no furniture. There is a single mattress that is floating off the ground.
She looks a little bit puzzled by this mattress and she walks over to it and she runs her hand underneath to see if just what's holding it up is like some clear material. But no, it's magic. And she looks around the room. There are signs of somebody living here, but she doesn't see them yet. So she decides to take a piece of driftwood and a pebble out of her pocket and place it on the mattress as a little gift for whoever is living there. And she leaves.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you see a pattern? She likes getting people when she
Yeah. Yeah, I see the pattern. She's very gifting is definitely one of her love languages.
or like, I hope we can be friends. Here's a gift. She goes to the other room that is to the right of the room that she knocked on. And there is also a light coming out from underneath the door. So she repeats the process. She knocks a couple times. Hello?
Yeah. So almost exactly the same exact pattern continues. I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that for the last room that is lit up on the far right, she repeats the exact same process.
Oh yeah, she gives them all gifts.
Just leaving and a and a
Take a pebble, a little
and a
piece of
piece of
driftwood
driftwood.
with a little bit of sand, just as a little gift.
Yep. Okay.
And no note saying who it was. Just a pebble and a piece of driftwood.
They're going to be very confused when I say that a piece of driftwood was left on their bed.
Well, I mean, hey, they know a new member is added, so I think they can start to at least kind of connect the dots.
Okay. But yeah, once Caspian has done all these things, leaving gifts for what she hopes will be new friends, what does she do?
So she goes to the last room, which does not have a light. And she looks absolutely terrified, hoping that there isn't some creature waiting for her behind the door. Just in case there is a little creature, she does have a pebble and a piece of driftwood in hand, ready to make a peace offering. She slowly knocks on the door with a little hello.
As Caspian very timidly knocks on the door, this door, unlike all the other doors, actually opens, and there is no one in the room. It once again only holds a singular floating mattress, and all the lights are turned off. And it does not look like anyone has lived here yet.
She slowly tiptoes inside the room, slightly making little jumps at all of the floorboards creaking underneath of her. Any noise, she jumps at. She slowly feels on the wall, trying to find the light switch. She flicks the lights on. And she immediately feels calmer knowing that nobody's there. However, she still had the peace offering in hand, of course.
Of course. Yeah, so she looks around. You can see visibly as her shoulders lower and the breath that she's been holding in for who knows how long is finally exhaled at the calm thought of the missing presence of someone being there and the thought that this is her room and she can have a little bit of privacy here.
She sighs in relief as she enters the room. Now, noticing the lack of furniture, she decides to quote unquote unpack her things a little bit. So she goes over to the corner of the room, the far corner, the far left corner of her bedroom.
Yep.
And she kneels down in the corner and she starts emptying her pockets of all the little pebbles and pieces of driftwood that she has found.
Now,
deciding
is this
corner is now her stash.
Yes.
Good night. Love you too, Dad. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Now, is this pile just full on empty it out, doesn't care, or is this a little bit of organization between the sand, driftwood, and pebbles?
Yes, there is a bit of organization between the little seashells, the little pieces of driftwood, the little pebbles, and then a pile of sand.
Okay, yeah. So by the end of about a better part of 10 minutes, Caspian has successfully sorted every seashell, pebble, and piece of driftwood exactly the way she wanted it to be.
And she is very proud of herself. And now that she has quote unquote unpacked her things, she takes a huge sigh of relief. She finally feels like she is at some sort of home. She decides to explore this apartment a little bit more. So she leaves her bedroom and she goes back down the stairs. And she remembers seeing something that looked like a sack or a backpack in the corner of her eye earlier.
Yeah, so Caspian walks up to what can be best described as just a massive backpack and takes the note and reads very simply that the note holds information about what the backpack holds. And very simply, inside of the backpack is just traveling camping gear to cook stuff with, a tent to be able to sleep while outside of the city, and a couple of very, very simple pieces of food that can be cooked with instructions.
She takes this backpack and she rummages through everything. This stuff seems very useful for going out on adventures. However, she feels kind of bad about taking it because there is nowhere on the note or on the backpack itself saying that it's hers. So she gently places it back down, makes sure everything is in its original place in case somebody comes back looking for it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. She does exactly that.
So then she goes back up to her room. Still thinking about that backpack. Was it meant to be hers? Or was it somebody else's? However, she knew she did the right thing because she would feel so guilty if it was somebody else's and she took it. So she goes up to her room and goes to a really weird floating mattress and belly flops.
Yeah, so she has this debate in her head for what feels to her like 5 minutes, when in actuality, it was closer to half an hour.
Oh
Her just
boy.
pacing, her just pacing back and forth, and eventually she comes to the comforting conclusion that she would feel better if she just left it there and had to get it in the morning if it turned out to not be hers. So she goes up, and due to the amount of stress, does not care and belly flops onto the weird floating mattress.
It sort of like bounces underneath of her due to it being floating. And that scares the ever living crap out of her. So she quickly gets off the bed and curls up in the corner and just stares at it. Like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. So the best way I can describe the way this floating bed moves is kind of like a water bed. It moves with motion, but eventually everything balances out. And she does exactly as you say.
She is scared as hell. Just a timid girly.
Absolutely.
So she sits in the corner and stares at it a little bit as it slowly balances itself out. She takes a piece of driftwood out of her stash and she cautiously tiptoes over to the bed and she pokes it.
When poked, the bed very simply just moves up and down a little bit.
She then pokes it a couple more times to see if she would get the same reaction.
Indeed, she gets the exact same reaction. However, with every poke, the bed gets a little bit more unstable as she tries to um throw it off its balance, so to speak, a little bit.
She eventually decides that this bed is safe. So she puts back her poking stick in the corner with her other pieces of driftwood. And she goes over to the bed. And like before, belly flops on it. But this time not as scared.
Yeah, she lays on the bed. Now kinda getting used to the way the bed moves and the fact that there is indeed absolutely nothing under it.
So
And
she
eventually, go ahead.
oh, as you were saying, I was going to do like a filler thing.
Oh, okay. Um, Eventually, it takes her a little bit, but it is late at night, and she is decently tired after all the stress her body has gone through during the day, and she does fall asleep, dreaming of very simply just the place she was several hours ago on the shore with waves crashing down and everything being relatively peaceful.
She
And
can feel herself. Oh, are you
that is
going to
where
say
I'm going
something?
to, yeah, that's since you're asleep. That is where I'm going to end our little mini session.
Okay, yay! Oh, that was so fun.